Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. We're out here at a beautiful lake today, and let me ask you something. In our last video, we've talked about cohesion and conceptual ideas, and today we're going to be talking about your portfolio isn't about you, but it's about what happens inside that the person is looking at, right? What it is that they're looking at. And so right now we're at Twin Lakes. Very, very beautiful right now. Not a lot of people. My camera's set up. I have a beautiful log and rock where we're looking at the mountains. And I'm just, waiting for the sun to set because we have some beautiful clouds coming in right now. And of course, the camera's facing me so you can't see it. But we have some clouds moving in. And once the sun sets behind the mountains, I'll start getting my shots, my base shot for the mountains. But then I'll get a beautiful golden hour as the clouds light up, which will be good. So, coming back to the portfolio, we've done a lot of interesting stuff, and this is leading up to us to create it. Now, let me ask you this. When someone lands on your portfolio, when they're scrolling through all of your stuff and they're looking at your work, when they stop on an image, what do they actually want them to do? Like, what do you actually want? What is it that you want to happen when they land on your page? Now, if you said, I don't know, or I just want them to like it, well, you got some work to do. And honestly, so does most of the photography world, because this is a very big question that almost nobody is asking, and it's the reason why most portfolios feel forgettable. And today we're going to talk about outcome and intent, and specifically those two things. Why does it matter, and how is it getting clear when it's completely changing the way you build and present your work? So here's the most uncomfortable truth about your portfolio, and even mine, is the moment someone looks at your work and they have every right to ask, so what? Right? So what? What makes it so unique? What makes it different than every other photographer and person who has created a portfolio? You've got a body of work. Great, that's good. What's the point? What is in it? What's in it for me, and what am I supposed to get out of this? And those are things that people are going to consistently ask. Now, these questions, they're not rude. It's actually the most important question of your portfolio that you'll ever face. And if you haven't thought about the answer, your images will answer it for you, usually with silence. And if people are silent, then you have your answer. But my goal, my why, when it comes to my portfolio, is I want to motivate people to get out, to see the world, to live their lives, because there's so much more than just watching TV and playing video games. You've heard me say this before. We live on this amazing, beautiful planet, and life is what you make of it. And I want my work to motivate people. When they look at it, they'll be like, oh my God, that is so beautiful. Where is it? I would love to go see this. And I'm seeing that happen in real time, right? UC Health in Colorado up in Denver bought 12 of my prints, 24 by 36 on metal. And, when I went in to check them out to see how they turned out, it was such an amazing experience. When you have 5 nurses coming up and they're like, oh my God, we love this photo. Where was it taken? We would love to go see this. And for them to find out that it's literally something in their backyard, and then they go out and do it, that's a great why. And we're seeing it happen in real time, which is really amazing. But here's why this matters so much more than just that. The second you remember that you're a human being is going to be looking at your work and interpreting it through their own life and their own experience, everything changes. Your portfolio stops being an academic example or an exercise that you're just trying to complete. It stops being you just stacking up images you're proud of. It becomes a conversation. And that, like any good conversation, it needs to have a point. And I think that's very, very important. Otherwise, you're just putting around and you're pursuing around, what might feel productive, but it's not communicating. It's not air, it's just activity. It's busy work. And that's okay. But when it comes to your portfolio, right, it's not okay. Your portfolio needs a reason to exist, and definitely your outcome intent is how you give it one. What is it that you're wanting your audience to understand? Later down the road, I'm going to talk about the 3 M's. When we start talking about the business side of it, right? Market, message, match, MMM. And this is very important when you're creating a body of work and a portfolio. So let's break this down. There are essentially 3 ways you can intentionally direct a viewer's response. And we call those closed outcome intents because you're aiming for something specific. So the first is going to be persuasive, right? This is where you want to change how someone thinks or what it is they do. So here's an example. James Netchway, one of the greatest war photographers who ever lived, he is completely upfront about his work. So for example, let's take a look at his TB project, which was tuberculosis. It isn't just showing you suffering within the villages. It's trying to get the government to act. He's not hiding that. He's not hiding it, and he's saying plainly these events should not be forgotten and that they must be, not be repeated, especially with this outbreak. And that is persuasion with a capital P. He's trying to persuade you to stop something, and this was a huge cause. But persuasion doesn't always shout. Some photographers do it quietly, and that's okay. Let's look at Anastasia Taylor Lynn's work in Narano Kabahara, and I'm pretty sure I botched that, where a region of paying families to have more children after the war, right? Doesn't lecture you, but you look at her images of those government support, pregnancies and weddings. They are cold, they are break. She's not waving a sign, she's just showing you something in a very deliberate way and trusting that you will feel what she wants you to feel, and that speaks persuasion. It's just wearing a quarter coat. And it's really interesting when we look at this because the government was paying, I believe, families for your first kid like $500, your second kid $800 or $1,000, your second kid or third kid like $1,800, and it just kept going up to there. And I think if you ended up having like 6 or 7 kids, then they would buy you a house and stuff like that because they were having this issue. Now the second one is reflective. Here you're not trying to change someone's mind or move people to act. You want them to think. You want them to sit with something. Chris McCaw does this in a stunning way. He makes a 24-hour exposure with the sun literally burns through the paper, no film, no digital sensor, just light, time, and paper turning to ash. He wanted you to stop and think about the fact that we are on a spinning rock orbiting a giant ball of fire. And that's reflective intent done at a cosmic level, which I think is amazing. And then you can also look at it from a fine art photography point. John Ann Verberg, who does it differently. She photographs the same landscape 3 times, shifting the plane of focus in each frame. And she's asking you to reflect on the fact that the photograph is always making attribute choices. And the moment the moment captured isn't more true than the moment before or after it. Heavy stuff, but visually gorgeous. I mean, I love her work. Now, the third one is experimental. This is one of the biggest ones in my opinion. It's giving a viewer a pure, aesthetic experience. Laura Linsky, You know, she did still life work. It's a perfect example on Experiential. She placed real objects next to photographs of those same objects and asked you and your brain essentially to figure out which three-dimensional was it, which one isn't, right? Which one is real and which one isn't real. And the camera flattens everything, so you generally cannot tell. It's disorienting in the best way, but her project is trying to convince you of anything or make you think about philosophy. It's just what your experience of pleasure of real and deep look, you know, comes to you. The beauty is within the eye of the beholder, right? Now, there's a fourth one that I'm about to talk about, and I hate this one. We see it happen from time to time, and it's the lazy way out, but it's an open intent. You know, look at the guy who taped a banana to a wall and sold it for like 5.3 million or something like that, right? Lazy. And I think there's a level, especially when it comes to professional artists, when they get to a certain point in their career, they kind of use this as a cop-out. Now, again, here's where I have to be honest with you, because this is where a lot of photographers, you know, upcoming students, entrepreneurs, and people who have never gone to college take the wrong turn. Now, the fourth option is called an open outcome intent, like I already said. And this is where you say, I don't want to direct the viewer's response at all. I want them to interpret it however they want. And look, you know, this can be legitimate, and, you know, a driver's license photo has an open intent. It just needs to be a photo of your face. Different people use it for different things, and that's fine. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But in fine art, in your portfolio, you're asking people to take you seriously. Open outcome intent is usually just a fancy way of avoiding accountability. And that's, you know, that is very true. You know, I think a lot of people avoid that. When you learn how to take accountability, you level up because you're owning your work. And, you know, it's the artistic equivalent of struggling. I don't know what it is, so just figure it out. And, you know, again, sometimes this can work, and sometimes, majority of the time, it doesn't. And when you say, I want the viewer's response however they want it, what you're really saying is I haven't thought hard enough about what I'm trying to say, so you're crediting control of your own work. You're basically telling your viewers, hey, you figure it out, and you interpret it. Your interpretation is fine by me. And, you know, with her work, people bounce back and forth. Every time she asks, she changes the question, or she'll change her answer. And that's generally what you're looking at when it comes to an open intent. But here's the problem with that. If any interpretation is equally valid, then your photographs aren't doing anything than a random cloud formation that couldn't do, right? Someone could stare at the sky and get the same experience as looking at your portfolio. It's really what you're going for. What is it that you're trying to achieve and go for? But defining your intent doesn't kill your creativity. It focuses it. Again, key word here, focuses it. It gives you a way of whether you succeed or not. With it, you have no compass. Without it, your work drifts, and, you know, you become brave enough to say what you're trying to do. So those are the four intents when it comes to portfolio and what it is that you're trying to achieve. Now, here's where things really get interesting, in my opinion. These outcomes and intents aren't rigged boxes you have to lock yourself into. Some of the most powerful work is going to be a mix of these, right? Let's look at Oliver Tuscany's. I'm pretty sure I botched that name, and I'm very sorry. But his work from the Benetton in the 80s and the 90s was advertising, which you normally associate with persuasion to buy something, but he paired it deeply with ethical social changes and imaginary, right? So having persuasive and reflective in a service of selling clothes, that's bold, risky, and sometimes unforgettable. But Van Lemaswidoir and Martin shot fashion catalogs that looked more like surrealism film stills than a product of photography. Now, nobody looked at those images and was thinking about buying a jacket. They were thinking about the meaning, the reflective intent inside commercial context. And you can do the same thing, mixing and matching, but do it deliberately. The risk of unusual combinations when it comes to the four intents is that your viewers get confused about what they're supposed to take away from it. So if you're learning intent, make sure one is clearly dominant and let the others add depth, not noise. You want more signal and less noise. And here's the last thing. Multiple outcomes and intents are completely okay. In fact, they're often what separates shallow work from work that lives within you. Just don't bury the lead. So in today's video, I know we've covered quite a bit. A lot of ground has been covered today, so let me bring it all back, right? Because I'm getting ready for my shot as the sun's starting to set. Feels really good right now. Your portfolio is not a storage unit for your favorite images. It's a deliberate act of communicating aimed at a real human being who is going to stand in front of your work and ask, so what? What about it? What makes it special? Why? What is your why? And your job and your responsibility as the artist is to have an answer in some way, shape, and form. Do you want them to act? That's passive intent. Do you want them to think? That's reflective. Do you want them to feel something they can't quite name? That's experimental. And if you're temporarily, and if you're, tempted to say what they want, push past that. The fear dresses up as freedom. The work that you are avoiding is the work you need to be doing. Define your intent, take ownership of your work, connect yourself to the viewer and allow them to be with you. Because when you do that, your portfolio stops being a collection of images and becomes a conversation, and a conversation that matters to you. So here's an idea. If you watch this video and you're here at the end, here's some homework before my next video, and I just want you to try it. Write one sentence, just one, right? Finish this. When someone looks at my portfolio, I want them to blank. Okay? I'm going to say that one more time. I want you to write this and figure this out. When someone looks at my portfolio, I want them to blank. Drop it in the comments. I want to read them. And if this video helps you think about your work differently, then please hit that like button right there and take 1 second. It generally helps this channel grow. Hit that subscribe button, and next we're going to come up with other things that we're going to talk about with our portfolio, and we're going to keep moving forward. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Again, hit that likes button, please subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.